So this is the review for the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 1, Episode 7. The episode's titled, Reading is Fundamental. Now, here's how I'll start this off. Look, you go and present the information to whatever parties are involved, and then you let them decide for themselves how they want to react. Of course, if someone is blindsided, then they're going to go and maybe not show the best side of themselves. And the reason why I'm saying that, the preference is because of what happens this episode. So you'll understand by the time I'm done with this review. So it picks off where they were in the sister circle and everyone was divulging something personal aside from Giselle. And we got to Robin. And Robin was just talking about the fact that they had a close family friend who not close family friend, but a close friend who essentially ran a small Ponzi scheme and they got caught up in it. And as a result, most of their finances were affected. And so now they're really trying to rebuild. And it's just hard. That's why it takes a moment for her to trust people. And I must say, I really liked Charisse this episode. She was probably my, the breakout star to me in this episode just because like I said in my previous episode, I feel like we're going to get another side from her, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm really appreciative of that because a lot of people just weren't feeling her. But at one point, it goes back to Katie, and so it was like, so Katie, what's going on in your life? As far as the foundation? Is your party going on as planned? Who's running it? And Katie's like, yeah, well, I got some new people. I got some other friends to join in since you have us willing to help me. That's what she really wanted to say. She might have actually said that, knowing her, but she was over it because of the fact that, her so-called friends or so-called people in the circle weren't really there for her to help her out. And so she did feel a certain way about that. And, yeah. Oh yeah, and by the way, I did glance over this. So Ashley did go say in her confessionals that damn, she does feel kind of bad because she was going at Robin in a and prejudging her instead of giving her the benefit of the doubt. Because remember, Ashley brought up the whole Robin has those financial issues, and that's how everyone actually found out in their little circle. And so it was irritating to hear Ashley say that because I've been on Ashley's side for a past couple episodes, but now I'm starting to see, I'm like, all right, there's a little something there that I'm understanding why other people aren't really feeling her. But we get past that, and again, it shifts back to Katie. Katie is over it because Giselle is still on her case about the whole, yeah, so what was going on, girlfriend? What was the issue with you at the party? You were acting a little extra, a little too much. And sorry, I keep whisking away some damn, like, what do you call it? Dust particles. But anyway, Giselle kept bringing up the fact that, Katie, so were you on something? And one is like, shout out to Giselle for just putting it all out there like that. But then the other thing is, why are you playing her like this? Why are you playing her like this? This isn't cute. That's not cool. And everyone was over it. Karen was like, you know what, that's not how you talk to someone. And it's like, at least go one-on-one. This whole bringing it out to the circle on cameras, that's doing too much. We know Katie was turned up, but to insinuate she was on heavy drugs, narcotics, or something really strong, that is actually very damaging to her overall character, especially since we really don't know her. So she went upstairs because she was over it. Ashley went up there to console her and was like, you know what, I just need a moment. I just need a moment. And so we get back to the next day. And the next day, fresh start. Everyone's all relaxed and ready to go. And Giselle and Robin are just talking. It's just like, no, not Giselle and Robin. Robin was talking to, Giselle. And I guess the living quarters are a little bit better. I guess they're a little bit better. But aside from that, you have Karen and, Karen and Ashley, they're just rehashing what occurred last night. It was like, someone talked about crap, another one talked about a divorce, another one talked about financial issues, and potentially drug issues. It's like, yeah, so good sister circle, good sister circle. Yeah, but Karen was talking about how Giselle wasn't taking it seriously, and then it's like, so you're not going to take it seriously. You're going to talk about a story about you taking a poop, and then to top it all off, you go after Katie. Like, that's pretty messed up. So you have Robin talking to Giselle and just saying how Giselle's like, I'm your real friend, and I didn't even know that things were that bad. It's like, yeah, I just put on this brave front, this brave face, but things were really bad, and we're just starting to rebuild now, so there is that. And again, it wasn't Giselle who started it as far as talking about Katie. It really was Charisse's friend who brought it up initially. At that point, Giselle hinted at it a while back, so let's not pretend like she never hinted at it before that. So Katie is talking with Charisse and her friend, and I don't know how to I forgot how to pronounce her friend's name. That's the only reason why, but I do know it starts with a B, so don't judge me too much. And Katie's just talking about, I'm over Giselle, and the fact that she would go and insinuate that I was doing drugs or anything like that. That's damaging to my character. How dare she? She don't know this, she don't know that. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but tell her. You need to tell her, because that's what they were also telling Katie. You can't just let someone like Giselle state her opinions and just leave it at that, because if you do, then it'll be taken as fact. So you need to go and really assert yourself in this type of situation. And so Katie does start it. She just go, when Giselle comes in, she's like, oh, I heard my name. It's like, hey, you heard your name, we're talking about you. Come on, sit down, let's talk. So Katie goes and she says what she needs to say to Giselle, which is basically, look, Giselle, you're doing a little bit too much for my taste right now. You going and saying whatever you're saying about me and insinuating whatever you want to insinuate. And Giselle's essentially kind of like, look, what are you really trying to say? Because Katie is still kind of being around the bush partially. And Giselle's like, oh, she's having a temper tantrum. She'll be okay. So after that, we have, it's funny because Charisse's friend, the one who actually brought it up initially, goes to see how Katie's doing. So I actually find that kind of interesting. But again, she's also kind of reinforcing what I just said, which is when talking to someone like Giselle, you need to just go at her head first, unfortunately, in order to make your voice be heard. So, but also Karen essentially says the same thing about how it was really inappropriate and wrong for even to come at you like that. I do feel a certain way. So everyone's pretty much on one accord, like, you're doing a little bit too much. So Ashley takes them to this, I forgot what it's called, but they go and get dressed up, kind of in that whole old town western bar scene. Just think of that, the big poofy dresses and just the extraness. And of course they soaked it up, they ate it up. It was like Wild West City on steroids. And so Katie goes and finally has a talk with Giselle, but it was funny because Giselle's getting dressed and Katie's just like, oh, so we need to have a talk. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, Katie, I know you like girls, but I do look nice. So, but can't you give me a moment to get all of this on? So after that, Katie goes and speaks with, what's her face? Katie goes and speaks with Giselle, and Katie's really stern, and Giselle's just like, you know what? I've never seen this type of side of Katie. So I'm borderline impressed with it / gonna respect it. That's really what I got from Giselle. It's like, alright, so this isn't some little girl that I can just, borderline talk down to. Not intentionally, but that's how it comes off. And then Katie was like, at this point, I've said my piece. I don't want to hear what you have to say. And then Giselle was like, well, I do want to apologize. Do you want to hear that? It's like, of course I want to hear that. So then she goes and apologizes. And he's like, well, thank you. I absolutely appreciate that. So how this is going to go is because Katie was talking about how you saying what you're saying puts my parenting skills in question because of the fact that you're going and saying that I possibly was doing drugs or maybe even have a drug issue off of one incident. that is why I say that you're all. And so then we go from there. Everyone's getting dolled up because they're going to this gay bar for this gay bar. No, actually, I'm skipping. They actually went to this nice outdoor restaurant, and they were all impressed. They were like, shout out to Ashley. She done did it. Now, this is what we're used to. The wine is just right. The drinks are just right. The service is right. The food looks good. Shout out to y'all. So, again, this really was kind of like a kumbaya experience because they gave Ashley her props. Because I was waiting for it. It's like, all right, you ladies are coming off a certain way and I'm not appreciating it. And but before that, they were talking about Katie. And Katie was talking about how she, her situation with her guy. And it was like, well, because Karen essentially wants to plan the wedding. Karen's ready for it. It's like, Katie, you have 3 kids. You can't be playing around right now. What's going on? What's going on? And Katie was like, look. First off, we need to go to marriage counseling if that's even going to happen, because at the end of the day, the first marriage didn't work out because we really didn't know each other. I turned 30 and I freaked out, wanted kids, wanted a husband, so I did what I thought I needed to do in order to accomplish all of that, and then that marriage went to crap. So for the next one, we're going to do this the right way. But again, they did shout out Ashley and it was like, you know what, you're officially initiated. This was wonderful. Proud of you. And I was just like, Ashley, you didn't need their approval, and I know you really didn't care that much in the grand scheme of things. It's just about building your own particular circle adjacent from your husband and his assets, because they also talked about prenups. They talked about what they're guaranteed and what they not guaranteed and what they have. And so it was really interesting because they also even went on to talk about identities. Katie talked about the fact that it is odd talking about black topics with her guy or the people that he's associated with, because white or finance or definitely Wall Street, in that type of area, talking about black issues or the black experience, they just don't get it at all as far as any form of the struggle. And so it's like, feel a real disconnect. And so then that's when Giselle in her confessional is just like, well, you know, Katie, they don't like you. That's all that means. And I'm like, no, Giselle, let's clean that up a little bit. It means that they like you for how you look and even for what you say or, well, what you think, but they don't connect with you, and maybe they don't even care to connect with you, because as long as they can use you or adopt you into their culture, they don't have to care about yours. I mean, that's the reality of your situation. Heck, you're talking about, okay, Jewish, all this, that's great, that's wonderful. What about everything else? I mean, anyway, so we go from that. And again, this was a really long scene, because it was probably one of the best scenes. It was very positive. Now, afterwards, they go to the club. They go to this gay club where drag shows or drag show contest was being held. And they were having fun. I mean, they were getting down. And I was like, okay, it was cool to see them just let loose. Genuinely let loose. And you could tell that they were really bonding with each other until Ashley's husband popped up. And here's the thing. They did overreact. They absolutely overreact. And shout out to Robin, because Robin was like, you know, I'm overreacting right now. I know it's not really that big of a deal. I don't really care. It's just that it did mess up the whole vibe, because they were all just vibing together and then her husband comes. And so I do get where they're coming from, where it's like, don't really feel comfortable with some guy that they really don't even know, being just popping up there, being with all the women. I do get it. I do understand that. But the thing is, it is his house. So at that point, it's like his house, his rules. So if he wants to be there, and he understands he's not going to commingle if they don't want to commingle. But I think Ashley, this is where Ashley lost some points with me. Only because Ashley has been pretending to be so diplomatic this whole time. She couldn't continue to do that as soon as her husband was there. As soon as he was there, the other side of Ashley came out, which I appreciate, because I'm like, okay, this is where we're getting some real honesty. Some real honesty from her, and shout out to her for that. But you can't go and fake the funk 99% of the time and then slip that 1% and expect everyone to be cool, calm, calm, cool, and collected. That's not how life works. So I'm fine that Karen disowned her. But shout out to Charisse, because Charisse was not playing any games. Charisse was like, what's wrong with these women? He don't want you. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, he has his trophy wife. He has his queen. He doesn't want you. And and they know that. They're not delusional. And so a lot of them calmed down because they realized it's not that big of a deal. But they just didn't like the fact that they didn't know about it. He just popped up. That was the main thing. But again, shout out to Charisse, because Charisse was really the most logical person initially. And also Katie. Katie was like, no, I really don't care. And you know what ended up happening? Half of them ended up hanging out with Michael anyway. So it's like, what were they really mad for? Like, okay, the ones who felt a certain way didn't hang out with him. The ones that did feel a certain way, didn't hang out with him. The ones that didn't feel a certain way didn't hang out with him. It's their choices, their prerogative. So, perfectly cool, calm, collected. But when Ashley was saying she doesn't care, I completely understand why. She was like, she doesn't care. She's with her guy. You ladies are irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Ba-boom, bye-bye. It's like, I'm not here to appease anyone's Giselle. I'm not here to truly appease anyone's Karen. Piss off. That's how I really feel. And so, again, when it got to morning time, they were just reiterating what happened. It was like, look, nothing personal against your husband, nothing personal against you, but I just don't think that it was appropriate. That's really how it left off, because Karen called Ray and told Ray the situation. Ray reacted the same way Karen reacted. But my whole thing is, first off, it's not your house, so you need to get over that. 2, it's not your house, so you need to get over that. 3, Ashley was wrong for how she initially handled it, where she was just like, I don't care. I know that's the real reaction, but when you're dealing with people, especially grown people, and they feel a certain way, and you've been a diplomat this whole time, you can't switch it up. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. If Ashley was just a little bit different, more so like screw y'all from the jump, then I would have been fine with that. But you can't go acting one way, and as soon as a situation occurs, you completely flip the script. But they did overreact. That was the main point. They did overreact, and when I say they, I mean half of them, because the other half really didn't care. They were just caught up in it. So that was it. Let me know what you think. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting comments for whoever watched this full review or even part of it.